Let's walk through pull request 325241 in the VS Code repository. This change introduces a new way for the agent host to discover Copilot customizations, using either the existing local scan or a new SDK-powered discovery mode. The core goal here is to let the agent host choose between two discovery strategies. We're adding a new SDK-powered discover mode alongside the existing local scan. We're also expanding the RCP protocol types, wiring up client integration, refactoring the plugin controller for better testability, and beefing up the integration test infrastructure. All of this happens without breaking the existing scan-based flow. Before this change, the agent host only had one way to find customizations: walk the file system and watch for changes. This PR opens the door to a second strategy, letting the Copilot SDK do the discovery work. The SDK can handle more complex scenarios, and this gives us flexibility to choose the right approach for each situation. The first change is a new configuration key. We define an enum with two modes, scan and discover, and default to scan for backward compatibility. The schema registers this setting so users can toggle between the two strategies. This is the control switch that drives everything else in the PR. Here's where the two modes come together. The refresh method now reads the config, checks which mode we're in, and either calls the new discover method with the SDK client or falls back to the original scan. Notice we clear the directories when switching modes to ensure a clean state. This is the heart of the dual mode behavior. The new discover method is where the SDK integration happens. It caches the directory structure on the first call, then makes parallel RPC requests to fetch agents, rules, skills, and hooks from the Copilot SDK. The results are filtered by directory and returned in the same shape as the scan method, so the rest of the codebase doesn't need to change. Let's zoom out and see the scope of the change. The bulk of the work lives in three areas: the config module, where we define the new mode; the Copilot agent and discovery modules, where the dual mode logic lives; and the test infrastructure. Notice the large additions in the test helpers. That's the new reverse request handling that lets integration tests run against a mock file system. A big part of this PR is the test infrastructure upgrades. The test protocol client now handles reverse requests, meaning the server can ask the test client to perform file system operations like read, write, and mkdir. This unlocks comprehensive integration testing for both modes without hitting real disk. There's a note here that 14 watch-related tests are currently disabled due to flakiness, something to keep an eye on for future work. After this PR lands, the agent host supports configuration-driven discovery. Sessions can choose between the existing scan mode, which walks the file system and watches for changes, or the new discover mode that delegates to the Copilot SDK. Everything works under the default scan mode, and the new mode opens the door to more sophisticated discovery scenarios down the road. Let's look at the gotchas. There are 4 areas worth noting. The most impactful is a potential cache race in the discovered directories. The cache is set once per call, but never invalidated when files change. There's also a config listener that might trigger unnecessary refreshes, and a note about the removal of .agents/agents from the search routes. Finally, 14 watch tests are disabled due to flakiness without a tracking issue. Here's the cache concern in detail. The discovered directories are cached on the first call and never invalidated. If the results of getDiscovered directories change, say because files were added or removed, subsequent calls to discover won't see those changes until the mode switches or the session restarts. This could be intentional for performance, or it could be a subtle bug. Worth confirming the expected behavior here. This is a well-crafted feature addition. The dual-mode discovery system is cleanly implemented, the test infrastructure upgrades are solid, and backward compatibility is preserved. There are a few notes to watch: the cache race, the config listener behavior, and the disabled watch tests. But overall, this is a strong foundation for SDK-powered discovery. The dual-mode logic is easy to follow, and the integration tests give us confidence that both paths work as expected.